Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I see that we already have participants who have connected from around the world. It is therefore my great pleasure to welcome you all to today's event for the screening of the award-winning documentary, Colors of the Alphabet, resulting from the unique collaboration with academics of the University of the West of Scotland and Newcastle University. The movie, which focuses on language and childhood, is a fitting reminder of this year's theme for the day, which is fostering multilingualism for inclusion in education and society. I'd like to express my appreciation for Ms. Tatiana Valovaya, the Director General of the United Nations at Geneva, for her presence. We are also delighted to have joining us virtually the producer of the film, Professor Nick Higgins, and the director, Dr. Alastair Cole. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for making yourselves available today. Before proceeding, I'd like to take the opportunity to go over some housekeeping matters to facilitate the smooth running of today's virtual event. Following the opening segment, we will be sharing with you the link to the film via the chat on our WebEx platform, which you will find on the right hand in a column on your screens. We are aware that the quality of streaming via a virtual platform may sometimes not be of sufficient quality, so you're invited to click on the link provided to watch the film rather than view it through the WebEx platform. We would ask you, however, to remain connected in WebEx so that you can return after you've watched the film, because there will be a question and answer session organized with Professor Higgins and Dr. Cole, and we look forward to having you back and hearing your questions. The question and answer session will be conducted via the slido.com platform. Now you can connect to slido.com either via a QR code that we will display on the screen. It may be displayed, it will be displayed now. So you can connect either via the QR code, or you can go to slido.com and enter the code IMLD. The question and answer session will be activated before the screening. In the meantime, and to familiarize yourself with the tool, we would like to invite you to connect to Slido, and we will be asking you a couple of questions. So the first question that we would like to ask you is, what is your mother language? So if you can please answer that question, what is your mother language? We will display a word cloud after the Director General has spoken. So now, without any further ado, it's my great pleasure to give the floor to Ms. Tatiana Valovaya, Director General of the United Nations Office at Geneva. Director General, you have the floor. Director General, unfortunately, we can't hear you. Could you please check your connection?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Director General. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Dear friends, dear colleagues, happy Mother Language Day. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this online event on the occasion of International Mother Language Day, organized by the United Nations Office at Geneva. This year's theme is fostering multilingualism for inclusion in education and society. And the focus of today's award-winning documentary, Colors of the Alphabet, is a befitting reminder of the importance of education in one's mother tongue. And I would like to extend a personal welcome to Professor Nick Higgins and Dr. Alastair Cole for being with us today. This is a day when we at the United Nations Office in Geneva hold very close to our hearts. Indeed, every day our work is driven by our commitment to multilingualism, and the preservation and promotion of mother languages is the bedrock of these efforts. Just imagine, the staff of UNOC represents a broad tapestry of languages with over than 100 nationalities working here in our office in Geneva, and some 69 mother tongues. And because of this, UNOC provides a key platform for international dialogue and diplomacy. It is our role to facilitate these discussions and conferences by ensuring the provision of high-quality services, both logistically and substantively, for such organs as Human Rights Council, the Conference on Disarmament, UNSC, UNCTAD, as well as highly sensitive political negotiations. Every day, we strive to enhance dialogue and cooperation among the member states. This is driven, of course, by multilingualism. Just imagine, some 7,000 languages are spoken today around the world, of which, unfortunately, 96% are spoken by only 4% of the world's population. And more than 50% of the languages spoken today will likely die out within a few generations if we do not make proper efforts. Even now, when we speak, every 2 weeks another language disappears forever. And with every language that disappears, traditions, memories, expressions, knowledge, history, understanding are lost. And each language is important. It's crucial for our humanity through its vocabulary, syntax, and grammar, and a distinctive perspective on the world. It's a unique take on the human experience. So that's important to preserve the languages which are still with us. And we still, as I said, have 7,000 languages spoken all around the world. And of course, access to education in one's mother language is key to preserving the languages and to preserving our cultural diversity. Yet, unfortunately, 40% of the world's population lack access to education in their own language. Just think about it, 40%. And in Sustainable Development Goal number 4, the 2030 Agenda focuses on quality education and lifelong learning for all. And multilingualism is essential for success across 2030 Agenda. Indeed, there is a growing awareness that languages play a vital role in development, not only in ensuring cultural diversity and intercultural dialogue, but also in attaining quality education for all and strengthening cooperation, in building inclusive knowledge societies and preserving cultural heritage, and also in mobilizing political will for applying the benefits of science and technology to sustainable development. To foster sustainable development, learners must have access to education in their mother tongue and in other languages. It is through the mastery of the first language or mother tongue that we acquire the basic skills of reading, writing, and numeracy. In achieving these objectives, multi-stakeholder partnerships, including governments, academic institutions, civil society, intergovernmental organizations, are key. And of course, education also starts at home. So speak your mother languages, cherish your mother languages, and pass on your mother languages to future generations. I wish you all a very enjoyable screening. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Director General, for your remarks. Indeed, as highlighted by the Director General, multilingualism is at the heart of our work here at the United Nations. I'd like to invite my colleagues to project the word cloud on the screen that will show the mother languages that the audience participants are seeing. So what we see is English first, French second, and then we have other languages: Swiss, German, Japanese, Russian, Turkish, Greek, Italian, Chinese, and Portuguese. We have 10 responses so far. Thank you, colleagues. We will now, I'd like to thank you, Director General. I'd now like to ask the second question for today's word cloud. If you don't mind, I'd like to invite all of the participants to tell us which country they are connecting from, and we will have another word cloud that I will show after saying the next few sentences. So multilingualism is at the heart of our work in the United Nations. And it is our bread and butter at the Division of Conference Management, where we strive to facilitate multilateral dialogue and understanding between people. Our services ensure that documents are translated and provided to delegates in all 6 official languages, and that delegates speaking various languages can communicate with each other. We achieve this through the efforts and contribution of more than 600 staff based in Geneva, ranging from meeting planners and documentation officers to translators, interpreters, and editors, as well as other specialized staff with language skills and many more. I would now like to introduce Professor Nick Higgins and Dr. Alastair Cole. Dr. Cole is an award-winning UK-based, New Zealand-born documentary filmmaker. He is the director of The Colors of the Alphabet, a film that continues his filmmaking and research focus on the often subtle, intimate, and increasingly political dynamics of language that he has previously explored in 3 award-winning short documentaries. His previous films have been broadcast in 27 countries and screened at over 40 festivals around the world, including at both the 2011 and 2012 Cannes Critic Week Film Festivals. Colors of the Alphabet is his debut feature-length documentary. Alastair is also a lecturer in film practice at Newcastle University. Professor Nick Higgins is an award-winning documentary producer and director. Colors of the Alphabet is the 4th feature documentary that Nick has produced. Previous productions include the BAFTA Scotland nominated We Are Northern Lights. So allow me to give the floor to Professor Higgins and Dr. Cole. Gentlemen, how did the film first come about, and why the specific interest in mother languages?
Thank you, Michelle. Firstly, please just allow me to say thank you so much to the United Nations in Geneva for inviting us here today and for screening our film, and in particular for making the 40 language versions available to everyone from today on until midnight on the 21st of February, Sunday. Myself and Alastair met quite some years ago, nearly 11, 12 years ago, when both of us were at the University of Edinburgh. And it was at that time that we started our journey together on how we might go about making films that reflected realities that are quite hard for people to see. And that's the beauty of filmmaking. It's the beauty of this film. We're able to take you into a classroom that otherwise you would have no access to, in rural Africa, in Zambia, to show a reality of when children first go to school, a reality that's well known amongst parents across the whole world. But the difference in this particular situation is that in this community, there are 3 languages spoken, but the language of their education is in English. So Alastair went out there in 2012 at first and filmed for nearly a year. And then the editing process, as is often the case in feature documentaries, took quite a long time. And then once we completed the film, we took it out to Africa. But before I say more on that, I'm going to hand over to Alastair to allow him to say a little bit about his experience of being out in Zambia and filming with the children.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you to the United Nations in Geneva for hosting us and having us along. As Nick mentioned, the film really stemmed from a real interest in multilingualism and also this relationship with mother tongue education. And Zambia became the site of the film and the place for the film because not only is it an extraordinary place, an extraordinary country, it also offers a microcosm into the global phenomenon that the Director General mentioned, which is that 40% of the population globally don't have access to education in their own language. So Luimba, the village that you're about to spend 80 minutes in, is a remarkable village just not far from Lusaka, the capital, sort of a couple of hours inland. And where Zambia has 72 languages spoken, there is only one official language, and there's 7 national languages in the country as well. So it creates a very, a common suppose, but very complex dynamic within multilingualism that often exists, that it's not always so straightforward, but the decisions, of course, have massive implications for speakers of different languages, and especially the children. So it's a remarkable class. It's a remarkable school in the village in Luemba that we had the privilege of filming with for a year. And as Nick mentioned, it's about taking documentary film is in its best able to give us an insight and a window into a world that we wouldn't otherwise normally see, and for us to also understand the lived experience of children as they do enter education for the first time in a language that isn't their own, and to take that shift. And the year that we filmed was the first year of school for the children, and at the heart of the film, it is about childhood, and where there is childhood, there is fun and joy, there's emotion, there's laughter, and the classroom was no exception. And the 6-year-olds, like anywhere in the world, they are remarkable children, and you're very welcome to join them in their in their emotional and humorous journey as we go through the next 80 minutes, and enjoy the film as well, because as much as it's about a very pressing issue, and one that is so aptly related to the theme of today. There's a lot to be inspired by the children and their experience, and I suppose after the film I can talk a bit more about the where that journey has gone for the children as well.
Thank you both for sharing this information with us. We will now be sharing with you the link to the film via the chat on our WebEx platform, which you'll find on the right-hand column of your screens. So you're invited to click on the link provided to watch the film. We would kindly ask that you remain connected to WebEx so that you can return after you have watched the film to join the question and answer session with Professor Higgins and Dr. Cole. So we look forward to have you back. I just would like to remind you that the question and answer session will be connected via the slido.com platform, which you can connect to either via the QR code that we will now display on the screen, or by going to slido.com and entering the code IMLD. The question and answer session will be activated as soon as we have shown the last word cloud that shows us where people are joining from today. We have people joining us from Switzerland, Austria, Italy, Belgium, and France. And I hope that more people will join us at a later time for the question and answer session. So happy viewing, and see you back after the film. Please stay connected to the WebEx, and I look forward to seeing you in a little bit. Without further ado, let's watch the film. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. I will make sure that everybody is back here with us. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you've enjoyed the documentary. I certainly have. It's made me want to visit Zambia, and I certainly hope that travel will resume for all of us in the near future. Let me go over to the questions that we have on Slido. Let me start with 2 questions on Slido, the top 2 that we've received so far. The 2 questions are: your beautifully observed documentary is shot at the very beginning of the educational journey for these children. Are you considering a Michael Apted style follow-up 7 years on and maybe after? And let me bring that together with the second most popular question, which is: have you kept in touch with the teacher, children, and families in the film? Over to you.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. They're very obvious questions, I suppose, in a way, because it's important to remember that documentaries are about real people in the real world, and no more so than this. And yes, I have kept in touch. In fact, I was in touch with Annie 2 days ago. She's very frequently in touch, and Annie, the teacher, lives in Lusaka, and in some ways she represented a modern teacher, a modern Zambian upwardly mobile worker, and she is very much on WhatsApp and Facebook and these things. So we keep in touch a lot. The families, I keep in touch via SMS and have done that since the start. So the children are actually, so the Zambian education system has 7 years of primary and then 2 years of intermediate. So their last year of intermediate was actually last year. So they're waiting on their results still. And obviously with COVID, it's been a very complicated final year for them. They we Elizabeth's family and Stuart's family are the two main ones that are still in the village. So Mbarak's mother moved out to the eastern province, and so is in there. But the kids are doing well, and so the last real when I was down there in 2017, we had both Stuart and Elizabeth and a lot of the class come to the premiere in Lusaka, which premiered. It opened the Lusaka Film Festival, Lusaka International Film Festival, and then went on to have a cinema release around Zambia. And of course, it was really important to see the children anyway, to have them see the film. We had been in previously and shown it in the village. We bought a projector in there, and so that was it was lovely to catch up with them then. But the journey's tough, through secondary school, and yes, the film shows this opening year where it is really about confronting that. But of course, exams are all in English, and even that premiere 5 years on, the children were far more comfortable at presenting and talking in Soli. So we had our Soli interpreters there, and they worked with them in Soli. So it was, that is still their mother tongue, and they're still children, and that is, even for normal communication, the task that is before them of getting through that education system through English, where all the teaching from grade 2 and 3 onwards was through English, is a really, really big challenge. So we're waiting on final grades at the moment. The good news was that over these last years, there's been a new secondary school that's been built nearby. So previously, where they would have to walk for a very long way for a couple of hours to get to secondary school, that's no longer going to be needed. So that's a positive thing. So they will be attending quite an exciting new school, which is great for the region and the area where they're in.
Thank you, Alastair. Do you think that you might do a follow-up journey in a couple?
Yeah. I mean, I would obviously love to, and you would love to on a personal level. I suppose when you make films, you have a very strong connection. I do, to the families and to the children, and I want to keep in touch. Making a follow-up film, I think, would be a fascinating insight into what goes beyond that first year. It's it's a good one for Nick to respond to as well, because documentary films also, our careers and things move on, but you do want to go back. So it's you would never say never, for sure. And I think knowing everyone would love to know how that life progresses for them, because that progression, like the 7 Up films that the question mentioned, does reveal so much more than just that one snapshot. So I would consider it. It's whether it's feasible with a young family here now, unfortunately.
Thank you, Alastair. Let me move on to the next question, which is, do you think the children would have advanced much better had they learned in their mother tongue in that first year of school?
I think so. Personally, yes. I think the advance is I think there's a key thing to remember with schooling and with education. This is shown through research internationally, that it's not just the linguistic element, it's the feeling of being welcome at school and embracing education. So there's an element that, yes, definitely, if they can understand if they're able to communicate with the teacher, the situation with Stuart being really distraught and emotional, you can see these moments also being tempered a lot. Obviously, he's a 6-year-old child going through a lot, but there's a huge emotional side to attending school in a language that's not your own. And I think it's about, yes, I definitely think being able to, their reading and writing skills would have improved. There's been some really interesting research that's been done comparatively between Malawi and Zambia, where the education systems are different, and the stage that they bring the level of first year's education, at least, is in a mother tongue. But the more interesting side of it is really about them feeling welcome in a schooling environment. And there's research from all around the world, including from America and Europe, around that, and that it's been shown, and UNESCO also do some wonderful work about explaining this, that student participation and parent and family participation in schooling is also vastly improved if it's conducted in mother tongues, or at least a very familiar language. And this is the issue with Zambia and that village, is that Soli itself isn't familiar enough to Nyanja. And within a language grouping, it's actually much more familiar to a language of southern Zambia called Tonga. And so the children had a very big leap to even communicate in Nyanja. They're brilliant, and they did it, and they find a way. But it's that first year is particularly tough, and the impact rolls on.
Thank you. What was the feedback of the children featured in their film? What were their reactions, and did they understand the context of the film?
Yeah. So as I as I mentioned, we had a beautiful screening, and easily my favorite that we've ever done was before we released the film. So the very first thing we did with this film, partly, largely because we wanted to make sure, like the question states, that they understood what we were doing and what the film was about, and the families. Because obviously, in the village there is no cinema. These children wouldn't have gone to the cinema. I could explain, and at the start we had really great meetings with the families to explain what the project was. But at the same time, we knew very well that it had to be shown to them first, also to get the blessing of the families, the school, the headman in the village, the senior chieftainess of the area. And that was important also to give us some feedback on it, because it's very much a participation idea with that. But they were wonderful, and we put a projector in their library. We bought a generator in. We had a separate screening for the children, and we bought in popcorn and sweets, and we explained what cinemas are like, and that you can have a whole lot of fun, and you're allowed to laugh at your classmates, and it's good fun. I mean, it was in a beautiful way. It was great, and they had a lot of fun. And another side, they would respond to Annie when they saw her on the screen, because they were, so used to the way teaching happened. And when they heard her say certain words in English, like stand up or sit down, they stood up while they were watching the cinema, which was very cute and funny. But at the same time, it revealed a kind of, how language is being learned there, when it's very much through, not a pedagogy, but so much a requirement of indoctrinating through English certain words, and it's tough. And I think the parents were lovely, and the parents. What was very beautiful for me was that the parents didn't realize that Annie, the teacher, was trying to speak Sawley to the children until they saw the film. They had no idea, because the 5-year-old hadn't told them. So in the middle of the film, the parents were cheering and crying and hugging Annie, because they had no idea that she was doing such a big effort to try and communicate to the children. And they used the wee boy as the interpreter in the class as well, but they laughed endlessly hearing Annie trying to speak Sawley, because it was terrible. But the effort was really heartening for them to know that she had gone to that extra effort and was trying so much.
That gives me goosebumps. Thank you for sharing.
That was beautiful. Yeah.
Were there times during the film that you wanted to intervene in any way, like when one of the children was crying in class? How did you avoid getting attached to the children?
I mean, I don't think you can avoid it. They're wonderful kids, and I, Stuart was one of the very first children I met in the village. When I was doing a recce months before we started, and he just came and sat next to me while I was waiting to hitch a ride out of the town, and just sat with me, and we laughed, and we couldn't communicate in any language, but we had a great moment. So I was, you have an emotional connection. But at the same time, the classroom was full of kids, and I was there with the camera. It was only me in the room, and it took a lot. I didn't film for quite a while, for quite a few weeks initially, for them to get used to me. They got bored of me very quickly, and partly because of Annie, the teacher, brought their attention very quickly to her, and so they forgot about me. I was there for so long that I just sort of became part of the wallpaper a bit. And I think when you do have these moments where it's difficult, and you're watching things on camera, it's very difficult. But Annie was always there. There was a moment off camera where there was a snake in the classroom that I intervened as much as I could, but they were far tougher than me. The 6-year-olds were the ones that chased the snake out, not me. So there's some things that you had to kind of step out and get involved in.
Do you have any future projects on the drawing board for multilingualism?
Yeah, I fortunately right now I do. I'm literally about to launch a new feature film, which is called Yoram, which is the Scottish Gaelic word for boat song. It's actually the first feature documentary film that's gone to cinemas that's entirely in Scottish Gaelic, and it's exploring the link between fishing and Scottish Gaelic, but also highlighting the importance of preserving history and oral history that comes through a language like Scottish Gaelic, which is endangered, which is a vital importance to the identity and fabric of Scotland and the UK more generally. But at the same time, it's statistically and its use is sort of dropping off, or it's changing a lot. So the film is based around sound archive, and we have an extraordinary sound archive that was recorded in the 1940s and 50s from the Outer Hebrides of Scotland. So it's all been filmed up there. I've gone from filming in a village in Zambia to filming in the islands between Scotland and Iceland, which is slightly different. But it's, at the heart of it, it's about language, and they're very similar in a way. It's about the celebration of multilingualism, and saying here in somewhere like here in the UK as well, it's about embracing multilingualism, and saying it's part of what we are as a country, and what we can do. And I think, we've all got a lot to learn from a place like Zambia, actually, that has such diverse multilingualism. And you see in the classroom, and the reason we use the multicolored subtitles was to say this is normal here. And to also, that, I suppose, reflected in the release in Scotland. And Nick might be able to mention a bit more about that as well, because the release in the UK and of Colours of the Alphabet, and how that spoke, and how we wanted that to speak to non-African audiences as well, it was really important, because we wanted to highlight, a lot of the same things that we're talking about today in International Mother Language Day.
I should maybe pick up on that one. It's very interesting what are the universals and what are the particular aspects of this film. And one of the points of this was this first year of school is something that people often forget. As we become older, we have very few memories of that. But it's the absolute pivotal moment of acculturation, this process of becoming part of a different kind of culture, in a sense. And this we found resonated with all audiences. And in Scotland, we have our own history with Gaelic, where the speakers of Gaelic were forced to be educated in English and actually weren't allowed to speak Gaelic in the classroom. And so the films played very well in those communities where we toured it. But the other aspect here, I think, that has helped the film travel, and that's how we talk about films when we get them out into the world, is the universal of the parents. It was something that really resonated with me when we had the early stages of looking at footage of the film, was that the parents' hopes and desires for their children were exactly the same as my hopes and desires of my children. It might be that they're in a rural African village or a rural Zambian village, but it was the same thing. But the difference between them and me was that, education wasn't necessarily going to be the route to social mobility, and it was unlikely that it would be. And that's what made it really bittersweet, that, even though they had the same ambitions for their children, the system itself actually was not going to lead to change. And so this is why, in Scotland now, we do have Gaelic schools, and as Alastair may have already sort of said, really what you're looking for is a multilingual education system that teaches not just one language, but several languages, and is always attentive to the mother tongue of the pupils.
Well, Nick and Alastair, thank you very much, and thank you for sharing this this documentary with us. We're coming to the end of our time. Together. I want to thank you for sharing this moment with us, and I want to thank all of our audience for joining us here as well. I would like to remind everyone that the film will continue to be available for free streaming on the UN Geneva website until midnight on the 21st of February, which means that there's still time to share the link with all of your friends and family. It will be available with subtitles in several mother languages in case participants wish to watch the version with subtitles in a different language. And I would also like to mention to everyone that there is a Mother Languages quiz currently taking place also on the UNOG website with prizes to be won. And I'd like to invite the audience and everyone to test their knowledge of mother languages. And so once again, I'd like to thank everyone for this event, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I look forward to seeing Alastair's next film when it comes out. Thank you. Bye-bye.